Our guests are going to be talking about the importance of community and building support networks for sustainable growth. They'll be doing a deep dive into how engagement and how collaboration can ensure long-term success and that all-important resilience in blockchain projects. A great topic. We've got a great moderator to oversee these very animated guests. Please welcome Naeem Aslam. He's a columnist for Zaye Capital Market, and his panelists. Please welcome them to the stage.
Good afternoon. It is going to be a very, very interesting panel because this is the first time I'm holding attending a summit from Cardano Foundation. I've done many other foundations who claim to be one of the most decentralized and learned a lot from their particular perspective. I think a lot of panelists over here on this one, their wealth of knowledge is going to give us quite an insight in that particular field. And Nav is one of the person who's the only person who's actually working in the Cardano ecosystem. So starting with you, Alex, please introduce yourself, how you are involved in the space, what your interests are, why Cardano, why this particular event, and then from there onwards, we will move right towards the end, please.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here, and thanks to Cardano Foundation for having us. Yeah, my name's Alex Chalmers. I'm the managing partner of Stadia Ventures. We're actually a sports tech venture firm based in the US. So I come at this from a very different perspective. First time at Cardano Summit as well myself. So we actually have been investing in early stage sports tech for the last 10 years. And now we're looking at how to utilize the relationships that we've got in the sports ecosystem with the teams, leagues, brands, federations, and actually driving them to Cardano and looking at how they can be utilizing blockchain technology for their purposes. So delighted to be here and happy to be part of the conversation.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Navjit Dhaliwal. I'm the founder and CEO of Iagon. And we're building on Cardano, so it's going to be an interesting discussion today because I think all the guests are outside of the Cardano ecosystem, so I'd love to hear their perspective as well, and looking forward to the conversation.
Thank you. Mary?
My name is McGilvray. I'm a brand director at the Interchain Foundation, which is the foundation of the Cosmos ecosystem. And I'm very excited to be here because some wonderful engineers from the Cardano Foundation are currently working on connecting to the Cosmos Interchain network.
Thank you.
George Chivi from Chainlink Labs. So Chainlink is the decentralized computing platform powering the verifiable web. We solve the data connectivity and blockchain Oracle problem in Web3. So we power more than half of DeFi, and now we're beginning to power use cases in TradFi, banking, capital markets as well.
Thank you. First of all, Mary, congratulations. As you said, you are getting married next month. So just on a lighter note, is that going to be on a blockchain?
I think so.
Yeah?
That's the plan.
Yeah? Okay.
We will mint an NFT about it.
Okay. Nav, so coming to you, why Cardano? And then I will delve further into it, and then we'll do the comparison.
Yeah, sure. I mean, it's a nuisance, right? First of all, why did we come into this space? Why Web3? And we have to look back at Bitcoin's vision early on. And, you know, it's about the big, powerful word that we like using in Web3 is decentralization, right? But a lot have not grasped it, and I think Cardano has come the closest to it. They have over 3,000 nodes across the globe, making it one of the most secure and reliable networks in the ecosystem. And unfortunately, some of the Web3 ecosystems haven't really reached that level yet, and there's a lot of constraints and centralization in certain aspects, not just the infrastructure layer, but tokenomic layers and things like that. So I think that Cardano provides all that for us. And being a storage and compute DePIN project, I think it's very important to have a reliable and secure layer 1.
There's a very fine line between being reliable, the risk to reward to that, because obviously your transaction fee, your scalability, and everything else falls into that particular equation. So the second question, which is very much related to with this, is that everyone claims to be one of the most decentralized network. A lot of people will choose based on two factors. One is the scalability, the other one is the fee. With Cardano, the fees are quite high.
I would argue that not everything is perfect from the gate from day one, right?
Yeah.
And Cardano's taken a different approach than most Web3 ecosystems, where they've developed very methodically and built a very secure infrastructure first, and focusing on that and focusing on the other aspects later. So it depends on what you think is important in the Web3 ecosystem. Is decentralization and security the most important for you, or is it speed and transaction cost? Because then you're looking at more so centralization, and we're not into the Web 2.5 realm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mary, what's your perspective on it?
That's a good question. I would actually disagree somewhat with speed and scale require centralization, because, for example, in the Interchain ecosystem, we have Cosmos SDK, the Comma BFT consensus engine, which is one of the most widely used consensus engines that is an open source and freely available technology. And we actually have currently over 120 blockchains that are using Comet BFT. I think it's closer to 135 now. So if you look at decentralization more from the perspective of, is the technology freely available to use, and then people can then use it and innovate it on it in their own way, and decentralization from that perspective rather than the monolithic blockchain perspective, then you have a little bit more flexibility there.
Alex, gaming. Telegram is very important. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I'd say I'm not going to come at this from the knowledge that these three esteemed panelists have as well in this space, but I think where we look at it is the sports marketplace has been slightly burned by everything that's happened around Web3 blockchain, especially through the COVID period around NFTs. So there is now this, I suppose, mistrust of what they can do. There's a reliance on where sponsorships come to the table, links Man United with Tezos or Kraken, OKX, and these types of deals. But actually what we've started to find is that sports teams are directly asking us for, right, we need help driving a strategy within blockchain. We need help to be actually understanding what our own problems are, and if there are solutions that are out there that can actually fit those problems. So what we're trying to accomplish with Cardano ecosystem, and certainly with the community of companies within that, is how can we do a needs analysis of the sports industry? How can we then educate that industry to provide the right strategy for solutions that can be identifiable? And then how can we start to implement and integrate those solutions into those companies, knowing that the sports market is such a copycat industry. As soon as you build and drive into interesting use cases, the opportunity to scale and replicate that globally becomes much more apparent. So again, my views here are slightly, I'm driving this directly to sports and to the community aspect. But
yeah, from the macro perspective, which particular sport or which particular one are you really
So we've got multiple submissions in Catalyst at the moment, and we've got a leading NBA team, a leading MLB team, a leading Serie A team, an MPB team from Japan. So we are looking across multiple sports, and I've literally got 100 teams ready to be guided in strategy terms to understand what blockchain can do for them, and actually trying to understand what use cases. It typically comes down to identity, comes down to data, comes down to engagement aspects, but there are many different angles and approaches.
Tell us a little bit more about engagement, how blockchain can help with respect to the engagement.
Yeah, I can look, I think the reality is that clubs just don't know their fans very well. Man United recently on a panel I was at 2 weeks ago in London, we're like, they've got access to 3% of their fans. they have data on 3% of their fans. Adam Silver, the NBA commissioner, last week said that 99% of NBA fans don't go to NBA games. So the knowledge is that that 99% are a younger audience and are looking at emerging technologies to be able to drive that. Now, what the answer is, I don't know if that answer exists, but what we do know for sure is that the teams are ready to understand what potential solutions are and then fit those directly to those problems.
Okay. We'll delve into a little bit more. To you, George, it's all about the community. Which one is the strongest in your opinion?
I would say Chainlink's community, just because obviously I work there. But to give you some numbers, last year, I mean, we had over 500 global meetups all over the world. Roughly, I think it was over 50,000 people participated, and it all culminates in our flagship summit, which is at SmartCon. So last year it was in Barcelona. Actually, next week it's in Hong Kong, where we bring DeFi, we bring TradFi, and the convergence of both worlds. So banking, capital markets, DeFi, Web3, builders, developers, enthusiasts, community advocates, developer experts, and so on and so forth, all culminating in that flagship event. What's great is that we have such a passionate community that truly believes in Chainlink, what we do from a blockchain Oracle perspective, a cross-chain interoperability perspective, and the use cases that we can power to build this vision of a verifiable web. That's truly like unsurpassed, really. I mean, you know, just this past week, we had a community event in Cairo. Over 120 people attended from a mix of entrepreneurs, VCs, startups, university students, and developers. We had a webinar that was trilingual, so it was Arabic, French, English, catering to Morocco and Tunisia. It just goes to show that there is a lot of interest. And it doesn't mean that, you know, Chainlink always has to be, you know, front and center. But people are very, very interested at the convergence of these different worlds and how Chainlink can play a part in them.
I always thought that XRP has the strongest community ever. Really. This is going before the guys went into this huge problem of legals and everything. And the reason that I'm saying this is because at the time, this is going back in 2017 or anything that you write on XRP, bound to get like millions of hits on that one. And that gets a lot of chat going in the social media. I don't know if that is still there, if the army of those particular individuals who were driving that. With Cardano and with other ones, I am not seeing that much of a strong community. From your perspective, please do disagree and provide me some color on it.
Yeah, so Cardano will, I think, beat any community in any poll on X. So you can see the results on X. Cardano community is second to none. They will every poll down, hands down. Yeah. And they have the most organic users, so I have to put that down as well. So when we're talking about community, we're talking about real users. We're not talking about VCs, projects, or whatnot. We're talking about actual users that are actually using the platform and hold ADA or ADA projects. So I would have to hugely disagree there because the facts state otherwise.
Then why the project is not doing so well?
It takes time to develop, and that's the previous point I made, is Cardano's taken a path, the difficult path, of building and constructing a platform and decentralized secure, and after that focusing on other points that Web 2.5 projects are focusing on already.
Mary?
I think it comes down to what are you looking at in terms of doing well, right? If you're looking at token price, that may or may not have anything to do with what the community is doing. But one of the things that I personally love about Cardano, and I think they have in common with the Cosmos Interchain, is a huge focus on grassroots movement and grassroots coordination to actually drive development and to drive the future of the ecosystem. So in Cardano, for example, you all have so much distributed development that happens that's funded via, you know, like people getting together and discussing what they want to fund, and then it actually happens in real life. And I think that's really cool. And it takes longer, right? But then you have true consensus around what the community sees as best for the future. And that is something they have in common with, for example, the Cosmos Interchain is a huge focus on governance. And it's interesting you mention XRP as well, because just yesterday I was on a panel with Ripple and their team building XRPL, which is Ripple's sidechain, and they're also joining the Cosmos Interchain. Wow. So we definitely have something in common there in terms of the community aspect.
Nice. To you, the same?
Yeah, no, I think you know, all the blockchain networks and projects have communities. I think we live in a world that is so post-digital, where you can learn about any network, any piece of technology, right? And someone becomes interested in it. I think, what are the metrics? I mean, I won't speak on behalf of anyone else, but at least from a Chainlink perspective, we look at it from, you know, how many enthusiasts do we have? How many developers are using our technology? How many projects are being onboarded? What is the scale at using the technology? And I'm pretty sure Cardano does the same, right? I mean, you know, panelists here are also very enthusiastic about it. I think, yeah, I would probably say it depends on the metric that you're using to define community.
Okay. Now, so a decentralized project like Cardano, what other networks can really learn, the new ones, because there's always something which is, okay, Cardano is an ETH killer, Cosmos is an ETH killer, and then Solana is an ETH killer. But what other projects can learn from Cardano, given the history and the longevity of the project?
I mean, I think a lot of projects can definitely learn from Cardano and how it's built. So we live in a Web3 ecosystem that really focuses on results now, think later. And that's kind of a fault. We have to focus on, you know, what is our goal? What is the premise of being here in the Web3 ecosystem? Why are we here? It's what's important to us. If it's important, you know, to have that decentralization and make sure that everything is reliable, I think you have to learn to build, right? And that's something that we can learn from Cardano, is building and constructing slowly and methodically, but it doesn't necessarily mean slowly, but in the right way, in the right direction. Because I've seen too many projects that are building backwards now because they've made so many mistakes in the past. Ethereum is a really good example, right? Moving from proof of work to proof of stake.
Cardano made a lot of changes during that period. You guys have made a lot of changes during that period.
Not so much, actually. I think that the steps have been the same. It just has taken longer to get there, and I think that's something that we should all think about, is just building the right way. I think, and that's something we can take from Cardano. And like you said, like grassroots communities is very important. Organic marketing. We talk about influencers in this space a lot, which I don't like. It's killing really adoption with Web2 users and really hurting our ecosystem. I think that's something also we can take from Cardano in building an organic community, focusing on real users, you know. And I think a lot of fake metrics sometimes are created in other networks to pump up metrics and pump up hype, and that's not what we're after in Cardano.
Alex, from your perspective, the fake hype and the fact that Cardano is doing a lot of work with the government entities over here, that should help you guys to see that, okay, this is a better foundation which is very much married with the government over here. And then how are you doing it? Because influencers, the role of influencers is certainly very important, but not the ones which we don't want.
Yeah.
How are you addressing that for you?
Yeah, and I think some teams are just trying to connect with fans, you know, sports organizations. We've chosen Cardano because we believe Cardano has the ecosystem and the builders within its community to be able to provide solutions that these sports organizations are looking for. One of the teams that we're working with is Juventus from Italy. They actually opened up earlier this year a creator lab to drive all of their own content. So they build they have an esports team, they build a lot of YouTube content, they do everything. But every single team is doing something unique or trying to be unique in how to get through to the younger fan base, how to engage, how to drive loyalty. Loyalty is the biggest problem in sports for organizations, is they don't know how to engage the wider audience that don't directly come physically to a game. And so we take a very much a problem solution fit approach to this. But we need to get to the heart of what the problems are for these teams. Then we need to say, right, are there solutions, and in this instance from Cardano, that are actually viable and can provide the tools to solving some of these problems? And then how do we actually fit them? How do we start to implement them and integrate them into teams? But yeah, I'd say all of these groups, every team you speak to, they've got the same challenges. Chelsea can't connect with their youth audience. Juventus can't connect with the youth audience. Others are looking at blockchain from a player health data. How can they bring their player health data on chain to utilize it from different things? So we're going to start discovering all of these unique use cases and opportunities for technology. Look, for these 2 days that I'm here, every group or company that I've spoken to has got an interest in attacking the sports industry. There is a lot of money, there is a huge market, there's a huge community of fans that are incredibly engaged with sport. So, but the question is how
so in these 2 days, what do you think was the best strategy to engage the audience or to attract the audience?
Right, our strategy is slightly different. We're not going in saying, here are some options straight away that you can use. We're taking a very much approach of a needs analysis first, and then an education strategy to be able to actually help educate the teams on what their strategy should be. So we are guiding them in terms of, right, these are solutions that are possible. Here are some potential use cases that we can then use and then start to replicate with. So I think the answer is there's not directly one solution fits all. It is more of how do we just create and set the strategy for these sports teams to be able to then utilize the best available solutions to help guide them.
I'm going to move the topic to slightly bit more technical, and for you, for the
That's
Cardano.
away from me, then.
Yeah, away from you. And then we'll go a little bit more into the easy topics about the marketing, and then what is the best approach for you. But for you, I got one tough one. When it comes to sports, right, engagement is creating applications for the community that they like. That would be one of the possible ways to keep them engaged. Now, the best way to do that, to launch that game, is to keep the cost to a minimum level, to a low level. Yesterday, I was at a pretty different event where one of the, I won't name the person or the company because I'm not promoting or anything, but they have the largest community in the gaming world. And they're using Telegram because of tons, the everything around that particular ecosystem. How can you do that at Cardano?
How can we do exactly what? Sorry.
How can you do that particular ecosystem? Because they are using Telegram because they have the payment gateways through Ton, right?
Okay.
And then it is very easy for them to do the API integrations within the Telegram and then do the payment gateways, and keeping the cost and the reliability and the security to a much lower level. But at Cardano Foundation or at the Cardano network, for the gamings, in terms of the payment gateways, where are you guys?
So there's different options. It really depends on what supporting industry requires, right? So as we said, it really depends on the model that you're looking at, business model. So it doesn't have to be a Cardano gateway to payment. You can use Web2 payments for supports and things like that. So it really depends on what the supports.
You see, the problem with the Web2 payment gateway is to build a community on a Telegram is a lot more easier than in comparison to other particular areas. Am I correct or am I wrong?
building
The huge amount of community, doing the airdrops, and everything is just within one ecosystem, and then you're just throwing everything out.
Yeah, okay.
By
So
ton.
are you talking more about interoperability?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yes.
So in terms of interoperability, so Raul is here from CTO of Liquid Labs. I'm sorry, not Liquid Labs, but Raul is here, and he did interoperability with BTC without creating a bridge. So basically, what you can do is interact with Cardano directly from a Bitcoin wallet. And we haven't seen that kind of interoperability anywhere in the space. And he will have that for EVM chains soon as well, meaning that you can directly interact with Cardano and Cardano dApps with EVM wallet. So in terms of interoperability, it doesn't get better than that.
Okay, Mary, I'm going to ask the same question to you, because here you have Alex sitting representing the sports industry, where they're trying to create more engagement, keeping their fans more loyal to the brand. And one way of doing that is to produce those particular dApps and apps. From the Cosmos or Interchain Foundation, what are the best techniques to do them?
So in the Interchain ecosystem, we are really about being able to customize the tech stack to your use case. So in his situation, right, if he has a team who says, we want to create a fan engagement platform that does these 6 things, and we're best suited to running our own chain to do that for infrastructure reasons, cost reasons, because we want it to go a certain speed, whatever, that is what our tech stack is best at, right? And the question about Telegram, of like, how do you build a user base of 1 billion people? I mean, don't they have like 986 million daily active users or something?
Yeah.
That's, I'd say fundamentally, like, that's a different product proposition, right? Because they were brilliant in that they came in, they built a messaging application, and then now they've added the blockchain capabilities onto it to create, you know, revenue and additional community opportunities. So it depends on how you approach the problem, right? In their case, they approached it from a Web 2 application approach first. In our case, we say, hey, blockchain for the purpose of blockchain, innovation on the chain for innovation.
George, to have that sustainable growth for any network, what are the best ways that you guys would drive the network growth by using the marketing techniques, airdrops, influencers, and everything else? How do you find the balance?
So I would say, I guess, bottom up, you know, we do run a lot of events and community meetups where actually most of the time we don't really even talk about Chainlink. We have other people come in, present. The aim is really for people to come in, network. If they can say that, hey, we came up with a we came up with a business idea from a Chainlink meetup, fantastic. You know, that's incredible. You know, we're very independent, neutral when it comes to, you know, a variety of tech stacks. And if you think about, I guess, from a top-down level, I mean, now we're working with some of the biggest traditional financial institutions in the world. I mean, we just came out with a use case with Swift, Euroclear, and 5 or 6 other financial institutions on corporate event actions. And how can you bring unstructured data into structured data and move that across chains, for instance. So that's really from top down. But bottom up, I mean, organic activity is always great. You know, hosting meetups is fantastic. I mean, we do it across cities in the Middle East and across the world as well. We have dedicated community managers. We even have volunteers. So part of our community advocacy program, we actually have volunteers that are passionate about the Chainlink platform, the Chainlink network, and Chainlink technologies. We have our developer expert program as well, which is also another volunteer program where developers contribute to the code base. They use the code base accordingly. We have hackathons. So to give you an example, in H1 we had a hackathon. I think there were over 10,000 people that participated. Several hundred projects were submitted with multiple organizations and associations across you know, Web 2 and Web 3 participating as well.
How do you encourage them to come?
That's a great point. I think a lot of people come for the use cases. At least that's what I'm seeing. Is a lot of people are genuinely interested about the use cases in Web 3. How can Web 3 create a better world through this technology stack, right? And how can we abstract a lot of this complexity away, right? So at least for Chainlink with CCIP, our cross-chain interoperability protocol, it's a single integration that connects to any system, whether legacy or a super technical architecture. And that's pretty much it, right, from that perspective. But how do we keep them engaged? I think people are just purely passionate about the technology. That's really what it is. I mean, if we go to a university or we go to, a tech institute, regardless of, the audience, people are genuinely interested in learning. And I think we've just made, as an industry, we've really made a lot of concepts very complex. At least my job, I try to abstract away a lot of the complexity, the technical jargon, and so on and so forth. And yeah.
Mary has touched something earlier about Cardano, about you guys. It's about the governance and the community participation, the voting. How you guys are striking the balance, if you could give her one example or two.
Governance and voting?
Yes.
I think Cardano is the first one to have real governance on the protocol. And they have now committees, different Intersect as well as here. So they have committees in the Intersect, and also they have DREPs. We're also a DREP. IAGON is also a DREP. So you get delegation from other participants that hold ADA. They can delegate ADA to you. So the governance model is new, and I think it's very new in the space. They've taken an approach to try to involve as many people as possible. Obviously, no governance model is going to be perfect at first, and it's going to take time to get to the optimal level that you want it to. But we try to encourage people, obviously, to participate in being part of the community, part of the ecosystem. IAGON is also a DREP and trying to have a say and have people that are delegating to them, give them a voice, basically. And we try to hold each other accountable, and Cardano is really well known for that, to hold people accountable. And even at small things, you get a lot of, let's say, pushback, and positive and negative, which helps grow the ecosystem, I think, in the right way. And I think, in the end, I think that's what we want, participation. And we try to encourage that. And at our level, what we can do as a project is participate and encourage participation.
I really appreciate that, because I am putting you on the spot with a lot of these particular questions. Okay. Mary, I wanted to bring investor confidence in this particular mix.
Okay.
And when it comes to the particular network, even with Cosmos, where is the investor confidence? How can you revive the investor confidence to make sure that they can continue to believe in your ecosystem, that you will have a sustainable growth? Because just for the disclaimer, I own a lot of Cardano and Cosmos, but my confidence is just like this.
It's a good question. I think some of it kind of goes back to the nature of the Cosmos interchain itself, which is, it's 120 sovereign blockchains, plus a whole bunch of other chains that are also built using the interchain stack that aren't even technically connected to the network. So they might be permission systems. And ultimately, each of those blockchains is entirely self-governing. So you were speaking about governance on Cardano. Some of the chains in the Cosmos ecosystem have very strong governance cultures, and they make all their decisions via the community. Other chains don't do that. Other chains are entirely permissioned, or they have some mixed model. And so when you think about reviving investor confidence, of course that's a chain-to-chain question of what are these particular chains doing to engage their investor community. But in terms of the interchain itself, I don't think there's any other ecosystem out there that has 120 chains that all talk to each other, and they're doing several $1 billion of transaction volume each month across the IBC network. So for me, that makes me feel quite confident that our ecosystem is healthy.
Does that make the investor more confident about you guys at the same time? That yeah.
Who is
Cosmos,
the investor?
the VCs.
You?
Every. Well, I need a bit more assurance for sure. Yeah, for sure. What about you, Nav?
I mean, yeah, again, it comes from perspective. Who's the investor and who you're looking to attract as an investor? And it goes back to the first kind of ethos of decentralization, Web3. And that's why Cardano's built such a strong community and such a vocal voice in social media, is because they're attracting people that care about this stuff. They care about reliability. They care about decentralization. And I think that's why a lot of them are holding ADA and not spending it. So I think that creates a network effect as well. But at the same time, I think that a lot of projects and a lot of Web3 communities are talking to Web2 projects, and they go straight for the gun, let's go for adoption. And what ends up happening is a total disconnect. And that Web2 company never participates in Web3 again. And we need to learn as a community, and that goes back to as an investment. Take slow approaches, do it the right way.
Yeah. Speaking about the approaches, what approaches would you like Cardano to take for you to grow and nourish within this particular?
Yeah, I think it's the same as you just said. It's small approaches. It's a crawl, walk, run approach to this. But they also just don't know what they don't know. There are some groups that we've spoken to that have some maturity level around blockchain. Most have zero level of understanding. So you've got groups that are wanting you to almost set their entire strategy for the next 2 to 3 years, and you'll have others that are saying, well, we've got ideas of use cases, we're looking at partnering with chains, but we don't know which one, we don't know which ecosystem to be part of. So again, for us, it's taking very much a stepping stone approach to this, to be able to get them engaged, understand their needs, understand what they're trying to achieve, and then hoping that we can find these solutions within for this instance, for the Cardano community to say, right, we can now bring you pilots, we can bring use cases, we can start to take that crawl, walk, run approach.
What would be the first pilot that you have in your mind that can really work well?
Again, we've got a group that we're working with in this submission, which is Maple Leaf Sports and Entertainment out of Toronto. They are directly looking at it from driving their player health data on chain. That's an idea of a use case that they're directly looking at. So we've got one that have got a direct thought as to what they would like to look at. All of the other teams that we're bringing to the table now are actually saying, we don't know what we want to do, but we want to be educated in what we could find out. So the process is educate them initially, provide them the understanding of what is possible, and then start to look at those solutions.
George, to you, which particular project out of everything, including yourselves, you find the most strength in, and then you think that yes, just don't think that what you have, just from across everything.
No, I mean, to be fairly transparent, I mean, I think all projects, really all networks have their strengths. I mean, if you look at the blockchain industry as a whole, right? If you look at the blockchain industry as a whole, the number of academic papers, research papers, I mean, PhDs that literally work on this stuff. Sorry, I don't know what's happening. That work on this technology to create a better world is so impressive. I mean, that's why I came into the space, honestly. Sorry.
No, it's fine.
Probably my fault. Yeah. Now it's loud. Is probably the reason why I came into the space, honestly. I mean, there's so much opportunity out there, whether it's an enterprise use case, whether it's for startups, whether it's for individuals, that they're really, I obviously I'm biased because I work at Chainlink. I mean, I love Chainlink. It's a great platform, but really everyone has something to contribute all together, really. I mean, that's why we're here at the Cardano Foundation Summit, right? I mean, it's from start to finish, it's super well organized. And obviously there are people that are very passionate about Cardano, the technologies that it can enable, and the use cases that it can enable.
And how's diversity really helping you? Because you did mention a couple of times speaking different languages and then going into different.
Yeah, so I guess one from a from a technical diversity, right? There's so many blockchains out there. All of them have their strengths and all of them have their use cases. From a cultural standpoint, I mean, you look at the Middle East, right? I mean, I speak very broken Levantine Arabic, right? Whereas if I were to go to Tunisia, Morocco, even the Gulf, you need to adapt to local dialects, local circumstances, cultural nuances that are there, and take that into account when you work in these markets in specific.
We've got about 2 minutes left, and I'm going to do the wrap-ups for the last question, and then the question will be the same for everyone. What particular steps a company can take to build a sustainable growth within the network, starting with you?
Yeah, I think George mentioned about universities as well. I think the collegiate space, what I didn't talk about as well, we see that as a huge area of opportunity. Specifically, the US sports colleges are so focused on sports as well. So we've got this really interesting play. We've got one group, Arizona State University, we're working with, that actually have their own blockchain research lab. So they're developing that inside, but they also have a 90,000-seater football stadium that they play in. So their academic side and then their sports side can potentially overlap as well. I think for sustainable, I think the sports teams are always trying to drive unique experiences to grow their communities into new cultural areas. As you say, it's from diversity there, it's from an aspect of building fan communities in multiple locations, in multiple languages, utilizing different platforms, being able to just drive that engagement in a youthful audience, which is going to be the future of the not only seats in their stadium, but also the purchase of their merchandise and everything else. So engaging that younger audience through diverse, sustainable solutions globally.
Thank you.
Yeah, so what Igon's done is we've been focusing on, of course, organic growth. We've been, just a little bit about us, we're a decentralized storage and compute network. We have like 500 nodes across 51 countries. So we want to focus on compliance and regulatory aspects of data storage and focus on the stringent laws and making sure that it's sustainable growth in a long-term perspective. So I think regulation is one of the things that you have to look at. Community and organic growth is another.
Thanks.
Ensure you're creating moments for people to have authentic human connection. And I would say that's true whether you're looking at a B2C audience or a B2B audience. This would be a great example of a place for people to authentically connect in a B2B setting. But just give people that entry point so that they can build those relationships that will keep them around for the long term.
Thank you.
I would say, keep it simple, keep the tech centered on what the customer use case is, and build from there.
I would love to see both and along many other projects to continue to strive for growth and have more integration with the governments, because I think that is, and get involvement from the institution side, that is going to really drive the growth. Alex, Nav, Mary, George, I truly thank you for your time. It's been a pleasing pleasure to have you on the panel. Please kindly put your hands together for esteemed panelists.
Thank you.